The day I realized my freedom was being quietly erased happened under bright morning sunlight, the kind that usually promises fresh beginnings. I stood in the kitchen of a house that didn't feel like mine anymore, holding a cup of tea that had already gone cold, while my husband's mother calmly informed me that she had taken care of everything for my own good. In that moment, something inside me tightened with fear and disbelief, because I could finally see what she had been doing all along. She had taken my money, my choices, my confidence, and slowly, my voice. What she didn't know, as she smiled with quiet triumph, was that my father was about to step into this story in a way she could never have predicted. If you believe that kindness, patience, and second chances can still change lives, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Acts of Heart. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching hearts that need them. My name is Arna Patel, and when I married Rishan, I believed I was stepping into a partnership built on love and mutual respect. The early days of our marriage were warm and hopeful, filled with daytime walks through the neighborhood, laughter over simple lunches, and dreams spoken freely in the open light of morning. His mother, Kalpana, seemed stern but polite back then, always watching, always listening, but never openly cruel. I told myself that her constant advice came from concern, that her interest in our finances and routines was just a mother's habit. I wanted peace, so I ignored the quiet discomfort that followed her wherever she went. The changes happened gradually, almost invisibly, like shadows stretching longer as the sun moves across the sky. Kalpana insisted that she manage our household accounts because she had more experience. She convinced Rishan that it would reduce stress for both of us. Soon, my salary was being deposited into an account I didn't control, and every purchase required explanation. She framed her rules as protection, reminding me during bright afternoons that young women often made emotional decisions. Each time, I swallowed my pride and nodded, telling myself this was temporary, that love required compromise. But compromise slowly turned into control. My clothes were criticized for being too modern, my friendships labeled as distractions, my career ambitions dismissed as unnecessary. Even my daytime routines were monitored. If I stayed out too long under the sun, she questioned my intentions. If I rested, she accused me of laziness. Rishan, caught between loyalty and fear, chose silence. His silence hurt more than her words. I began to feel smaller, like I was shrinking inside my own skin, my confidence fading with each passing morning. What hurt the most was how isolated I became. My phone calls were monitored, my visits home discouraged. Kalpana often reminded me that once married, a woman's world should revolve around her husband's family. I tried to be understanding, but loneliness settled deep in my chest. I would sit by the window in broad daylight, watching life move freely outside while I felt trapped in stillness. It was during one of those afternoons that I realized I hadn't spoken to my father, Devraj Patel, in weeks. My father had raised me alone after my mother passed away, teaching me independence, self-respect, and quiet strength. He believed mornings were meant for purpose and afternoons for reflection. He had always trusted me to build my own life. When Kalpana subtly blocked my calls and dismissed my need to visit him, something inside me began to crack. Still, I told myself not to cause conflict. I believed endurance was kindness. I was wrong. The breaking point came on a clear, sunlit day when I discovered that my personal savings, the emergency fund my father had helped me build since college, had been transferred without my consent. Kalpana explained calmly that it was safer this way, that she knew how to manage assets better than someone emotional like me. My hands shook as I stood there, the room bright but my vision blurred. That was the moment I understood that this wasn't concern anymore. It was possession. I tried to speak to Rishan, hoping he would finally see my pain, but fear had wrapped itself around him too tightly. He avoided my eyes, repeating his mother's logic, asking me to be patient. Patience, I realized, had become another word for surrender. That afternoon, as sunlight poured through the windows, I quietly packed a small bag, not to run away, but to reclaim my voice. I walked out and went somewhere I hadn't been allowed to go in a long time. I went to see my father. Devraj Patel listened without interrupting as I finally let the truth spill out. He saw the exhaustion in my face, the way my shoulders sagged under invisible weight. He didn't raise his voice or curse anyone. Instead, he did what he always did best. He stood up calmly, his presence steady and unshakable, and told me that no one had the right to erase me. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Safety. What Kalpana never knew was that my father wasn't just a quiet widower living a simple life. He was a respected legal advisor who had spent decades helping people reclaim what was taken from them. He believed deeply in fairness and dignity. While I rested at his home, feeling the warmth of daylight without fear for the first time in ages, he began making calls, gathering documents, and preparing to confront the situation with clarity and strength. The confrontation didn't happen in darkness or secrecy. It happened in full daylight, in Kalpana's living room, where she had once declared her authority so confidently. My father arrived calmly, his posture firm, his eyes kind but unyielding. He laid out facts, laws, and consequences, not as threats, but as truths. He spoke of financial abuse, of consent, of a woman's legal right to her earnings and autonomy. Kalpana's confident smile faltered as she realized that control built on fear could not stand against knowledge. Rishan watched as the reality he had avoided unfolded before him. For the first time, he saw the cost of his silence. He saw the woman he loved standing beside her father, not broken, but steady. The house that once felt like a cage suddenly felt exposed, its walls unable to hide the truth anymore. My father made it clear that there would be no shouting, no revenge, only accountability and change. The days that followed were filled with difficult adjustments. Control doesn't disappear overnight. But boundaries were set, accounts returned, and apologies, though hesitant, were made. I chose not to leave my marriage immediately, not because I was weak, but because I wanted change, not escape. Rishan began therapy, learning to unlearn fear and reclaim his own voice. Kalpana, faced with consequences and reflection, softened in ways I never expected. Most importantly, I reclaimed myself. I returned to my career, rebuilt my friendships, and reconnected with the parts of me that had gone silent. Each daytime felt brighter, fuller, earned. I learned that kindness does not mean allowing harm, and patience should never cost self-respect. My father didn't save me because I was helpless. He stood beside me because I deserved support. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength or someone you love who is struggling quietly, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach those who need hope the most. And before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment below with one word that represents strength to you. Your words might be the light someone else is searching for. Today, as I stand in the open daylight of my own life again, I know one truth for certain. Control can take many things, but it can never take away the power of love, courage, and the quiet strength passed down by those who taught us to stand tall.